Hello everyone, happy Deadpool and Wolverine release day. To celebrate, I wanted to go over every single Deadpool and Wolverine Lego figure, with a couple of bonus figures just to make things a bit more interesting. And first up will be Deadpool himself. LEGO has made only 3 Deadpool figures, which honestly is a lot for how mature the character is. So the first time Deadpool ever showed up as a LEGO minifigure was in 2013 with Wolverine's Chopper Showdown. This is the only time Deadpool ever came in an actual set. He also was heavily featured in the LEGO Marvel Superheroes video game of the same year. And this is my personal favorite version of Deadpool in LEGO form, because I am so nostalgic for that game, but also they did a really good job with the printing. I really like the early 2010 printing for superheroes. He has really simple but effective printing. There's no arm printing or anything. There is leg printing that matches up with the torso. He comes with his 2 katanas on his back and 2 guns. So this look is very faithful to Deadpool from the comics, and I always think it's interesting they chose to feature him in the first X-Men set they've ever done. However, I'm very glad they made a Deadpool figure, as I'm not sure they will ever put one in another set again. Moving on, we have the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Duckpool. Now, I don't own this figure, but I was trying to buy it back in 2019. I ended up getting 2 other figures instead of this one. But I'll have to show those off another time. Duckpool's great, though. I think he's a fantastic little figure. The figure features small legs, a very similar print to the original Deadpool, although it is a little bit different with different straps and pouches and that sort of thing. No leg printing on the small red legs. And the most interesting piece of this figure is the Donald Duck molded head that I believe has been dual molded to show the beak and the mask with the Deadpool printing. And the next Deadpool figure is from the next year at San Diego Comic-Con 2018, Sheriff Deadpool. I like this one better than Duckpool just because Duckpool's fun, but I really like cowboy stuff, and it feeds into this goofy, fun personality of Deadpool's. The legs and torso are printed with a cowboy outfit, kind of a Woody from Toy Story vest with a sheriff's badge, bandana. He's got a belt with bullets and a large Texas cowboy-style belt buckle with steer horns on it. He's got a holster with chaps on his legs. They gave him the mustache piece. The Deadpool mask is very similar to the old one, but it does have more expression and more detailing on it. Honestly, for a San Diego Comic-Con figure, I would like there to be something printed on the hat, maybe a sheriff's badge, maybe Deadpool's logo. That would just make the hat more interesting. And since then, they've never done any more Deadpools. Maybe they will soon, just to cash in on the popularity of the character with the new movie being out now. They obviously won't make anything directly connected to the movie, but it is possible for them to do something else at some point, although I doubt it. Again, Deadpool's a very mature character. It's not as surprising that they made the original one in 2013 before the movies came out, because they could kind of sell it for kids, and they tied it in with the Lego video game, which was more for kids, have a very light Deadpool personality in there, so he's not crude or anything. So Duckpool and Sheriff Deadpool I think are very interesting just because they did make these figures after the movies, which again, both great figures, just really unique and obscure. And now the main Deadpool portion of the video is over, and we will be focusing now on Wolverine. Wolverine is a character that LEGO feels they need to put in virtually every X-Men set. So he does have the most minifigures of any X-Men, which isn't saying a lot, because there haven't been very many LEGO sets featuring the X-Men. We're starting to get more. We had the CMF figures, we had the X-Jet remake recently, and of course we'll be getting the X-Mansion. All that being said, let's dive into the very first LEGO Wolverine from 2013, again from Wolverine's Chopper Showdown. This will always be one of my favorite versions of Wolverine. I think it's a really cool coincidence that the Deadpool and Wolverine that look most like the ones from the movie come from the same set in 2013. I'm a big fan of the classic blue and yellow look. He doesn't have a mask in the set aside from a small print on the back, which makes it look more like a hood. He comes with these claw pieces. These same claws come with every Wolverine they've ever made. He also has 2 expressions, the snarling grimace, and then more of this just grumpy look. I think this is a great figure that really shows off Wolverine's character and goes well with the Deadpool that was included in this set. The next Wolverine that came out was from the very next year with X-Men versus the Sentinel. And this features the X-Jet with the X-Men fighting a Sentinel, of course, and Magneto again. Magneto's the other figure that comes in most of these sets, but Wolverine's in pretty much every one and is the focus of many of them. This time around, Wolverine comes in the brown and yellow outfit. There's no printing on the legs this time, but I do really love the printing on the torso and back. I think this is a really good version of Wolverine's costume. I do prefer the blue and yellow, but I think that this one always will have a place in my heart. And the most interesting thing about this figure is we now have Wolverine's cowl dual molded in black and yellow. I don't think they could really improve on this design. I think it looks fantastic. It comes with the same kind of prints as the previous figure on both sides of the head, one kind of grumpy and one with this grimace. Although this time he's wearing white goggles to have white eyes underneath his mask. And then it was several years before we had another minifigure. And the only one to come out during this time was the Mighty Micros Wolverine vs. Magneto in 2017. I don't think this is the worst Wolverine. It is probably the weirdest, though. The whole Mighty Micros line was a very strange concept, but it was fun to get these weird little minifigures. And as an X-Men fan, it was frustrating that this was the only X-Men set we would be getting for the foreseeable future. Like all Mighty Micros at the time, he has short, unprinted legs and a goofy cartoonish print on the face and torso. This one does not come with another print on the other side of the head. It's just this cartoony growl grimace. One thing that I do think is interesting about this figure is you can actually see the whites of his eyes. This is something I've only noticed recently, but they actually printed the standard Lego eye as a pupil, which I think is very strange. Plus they gave him a unibrow, which is kind of funny. Although the shorter legs are probably more accurate to the comic book, less accurate to Hugh Jackman. And moving on, we would have to wait 5 more years for the next Wolverine minifigure and X-Men set. And that is the Wolverine mech armor in 2022. Honestly, this set I think is a little bit lackluster. I'm not a huge fan of the mech suits in general. I think Iron Man or War Machine really makes sense for a mech figure. I don't really think Wolverine makes sense for a mech figure, but it doesn't have to. These are just cheap little sets, something fun for kids to build, and a good way for adults and kids to get minifigures. The figure itself is a bit lackluster. There's no leg printing, and the printing on the torso is a bit lacking. They did go for kind of the same look as the 2013 figure. However, the blue is much more toned down and the stripes don't look all that great in my opinion. It also has the same orangish yellow and black dual molded mask as the 2014 figure, and has a very similar print on the face with the white goggles and snarl. On the back, however, for the first time Wolverine is printed with a smile. I think that's a nice touch. Often in comics and other media, he gets this furrowed brow and grin on his face when he's about ready to fight and tear somebody apart. But that's about all I can say about this figure. It is a little bit lackluster, but I think it's great for what it is. I believe objectively the next figure is the best Wolverine minifigure ever made. As well it should be from the CMF line. It is the X-Men 97 Wolverine from CMF Marvel Series 2. With dual molded legs and arm printing and side leg printing, it's hard to top this figure. I think it is interesting he comes in a more yellow color than the previous versions of Wolverine. They're all in more of an orangish yellow. He's more of a bright yellow. The printing on this figure I think is perfect. Underneath the mask there's similar faces to those we've seen before, once again with the grimace and white goggles. And on the back, a stern Wolverine look. Comparing Wolverine's face printings is interesting to me because many of them share the same expressions, but they're different designs for each figure. I don't have a whole lot to say about this figure. He just perfectly encapsulates Wolverine to me. I will note that one of his accessories is this Sentinel head. What I think is really cool about the Sentinel head is it is the same kind of piece as from the 2014 Sentinel. I don't have that Sentinel, but you could swap the heads on them, and I think that's pretty cool. And now we'll move on to the final Wolverine Lego figure, and in my opinion, the most disappointing Wolverine minifigure. And that is the Wolverine from this year's X-Jet. What makes this figure so terrible is the fact that it is the same exact figure from the CMF line, except for much worse. The torso and mask are the same, the arms have no printing, and the legs, instead of being dual molded, are just blue with yellow printing. I do think that the X-Jet is a fantastic set. However, I'm waiting for a good deal on one before I get one. I thought about just biting the bullet and getting this set for the Wolverine figure so I could complete my Wolverine collection. However, I still couldn't justify the $85 price point of this set. The other figures I think are fantastic. I think this Wolverine would have been better had we not gotten the exact same one several months earlier, and much, much better. A saving grace of this figure is the fact that it has 2 unique expressions. One again with the goggles, but this time he's smiling, which again I really like that smile, and I'm glad we have a white-eyed version to go with it. And on the other side, he's got a little bit of a smirk, meaning this is the only head in which he's not just angry. But aside from that, there's really nothing special about this figure. Again, it's just a cheaper version of the CMF figure. I recommend just getting the CMF figure. And honestly, what bugs me more about this being a crappy version of the CMF figure is that they didn't just include somebody else. There are a lot of other X-Men and X-Men villains. We don't need Wolverine in every single X-Men Lego set. I'm glad we have options for Wolverine, however, I would like more characters. I think it's great we have a 90s version of Cyclops and Rogue in this set, but they really should have given us something more with Wolverine. I think an easy way to fix this would make this a different version of Wolverine. Even in the 90s cartoon, he had a little bit of a cowboy look with a plaid shirt and large belt buckle and jeans. I understand that version doesn't make a lot of sense with the X-Jet, but I would have rather had that. But with that, he is the final Lego Wolverine minifigure. However, we have a couple more figures to cover. With this bonus minifigure from Mega Bloks. Please just hear me out. Don't click away. I know this is a Lego video, but this is a cool figure. Now, there is an older version from 2004 where Mega Bloks were trying really hard just to be Lego, but this figure from 2011, right before Marvel moved over from Mega Bloks to Lego, is a really good figure. Especially this time period of blind bag figures. They had a lot of Marvel ones, and I ate those up. And Wolverine was one of my favorite figures in these blind bags. He's more articulate and posable. Again, more like a tiny action figure rather than a mini figure. I think he's got some excellent molding and printing. Do I prefer this figure over the Lego ones? No, I don't. I'll always love the Lego ones more, but I think this one deserves a little bit of love. There is one aspect of this figure that I would compare to the Lego figures, and I actually think Mega Bloks did it better, and that is his claws. I think it's a better mold and it fits Wolverine more accurately. For one, the claws are actually coming out where they're supposed to be, and I think the shape feels more like Wolverine. And with all that being said, we're done with Mega Bloks. It's okay. You can look back to the screen. Everything's going to be okay. We're back to Legos. For our final figure, Deadpool's sidekick, Hydra Bob. This isn't Hydra Bob himself. It's just a Hydra agent from the Captain America vs. Hydra Lego set in 2014. But it is the only comic book accurate Hydra that we've gotten. Not including the scuba one, but that one is a variant of this one. Besides, who is Hydra Bob but a humble nobody henchman that Deadpool convinced to join up with him anyway? A fun fact about the first Deadpool movie is his character did technically show up.
Oh. Bob?
Wait?
He obviously wasn't Hydra because Fox didn't have any rights to any of that stuff. I think Hydra Bob is a pretty underrated character and is a lot of fun in the comic books. This figure has great printing, and honestly, imagining it as Hydra Bob makes me appreciate it even more. I will say the only thing that would make this more of a Hydra Bob would be a large smile instead of an angry face. But side by side with Deadpool, I think he looks pretty great. And with that, we've covered all the Deadpool, Wolverine, and bonus figures. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it strays a bit from my normal content, but I really wanted to branch out a bit more. Make sure to let me know if you want to see more superhero, pop culture content, in addition to the castle and lore stuff I've been doing. And if you see it, don't forget to let me know what you think of the movie Deadpool and Wolverine in the comments. And we'll see you guys next time.